Germany and Japan were uncomfortable allies before and during World War II. I say uncomfortable because unlike Germany's Italian ally, there was a vast cultural gulf between the Germans and the Japanese. Both nations also had quite different strategic goals, and though united by a desire to defeat the British and Americans, they never really trusted each other, often kept secrets from one another, and due to geography, rarely actually cooperated militarily. And now, a word from our sponsor. A VPN is great for security and privacy. By linking your IP address and encrypting your traffic, it shields your data from snoopers and all kinds of cyber attack. If, like me, you want protection when using public Wi-Fi or accessing bank accounts, then NordVPN's Threat Protection is the feature for you, and it's going to take your digital security to the next level. Once you enable it on your NordVPN app, Threat Protection will guard your device against malicious websites, malware, trackers, and intrusive ads, even if you're not connected to the VPN server at the time. That's right. When you switch it on, it will stay on, regardless of your VPN connection. Internet security is that easy. Go to nordvpn.com/Mark Felton and get an exclusive deal. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. You get 4 months for free on a 2-year plan. That's nordvpn.com/Mark Felton. But despite these differences, Germany and Japan did generally get along and to some extent aided each other, the most famous way by Germany supplying Japan with high-tech weapons and equipment which it could produce under license, and Japan selling Germany raw materials that it desperately needed for its own armaments and pharmaceutical industries, a trade carried out initially using surface merchant ships and later by German U-boats, converted Italian submarines and huge Japanese submarines. Both sides maintained large embassies in each other's capitals, with large contingents of uniformed army, navy and air force officers acting as military attachés and observers. Naturally, good diplomacy requires much flattery by both sides, and in a previous video I discussed how some Japanese generals and admirals were decorated by Nazi Germany due to their wartime achievements, including several given Germany's highest award for bravery, the Knight's Cross. Likewise, Japan honored many top German political and military leaders with high decorations. For example, Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe, was twice honored by Emperor Hirohito. In November 1937, he received the Grand Cordon of the Order of the Rising Sun, and in September 1942, the Grand Cordon of the Order of the Rising Sun with Polonia. Heinrich Himmler, Reichsführer SS, also received the Grand Cordon of the Rising Sun in 1937, along with several generals. Hirohito even offered Hitler the Grand Cordon of the Supreme Order of the Chrysanthemum in September 1938, but the Führer declined, in fact declining all foreign orders offered to him. But Hitler had already accepted a very special gift from the Japanese, a sword. The Japanese say that the sword is the soul of Japan, and the nation is renowned for its exceptional katana swords. The presentation of a special sword has long been a Japanese custom dating back to samurai times, when such gifts, long before the invention of medals and decorations, were the ultimate honor bestowed by an emperor, a shogun, or a regional warlord. On the 19th of May 1936, the German Chargé d'Affaires in Tokyo was presented with an ancient katana by Baron Goto of the Ancient Sword Scrolls Guild to be given to Hitler. Baron Goto said, "To Herr Hitler, whom we Japanese revere, we give this sword as a symbol of the Japanese spirit, and we trust that, as a result, the friendship between Germany and Japan may be deepened." The sword was sent to the Reich Chancellery in Berlin via the diplomatic bag, but what became of it is not known. It is known that Hitler also received a pair of Japanese swords on another occasion, this time the signing of the tripartite pact that created the Axis alliance between Germany, Italy and Japan in Berlin on the 27th of September 1940. The Japanese delegation presented Hitler and Italian dictator Benito Mussolini each with one set of ancient samurai armor and associated long and short swords. I suspect that Hitler had this armor passed on to one of the museums in Berlin, and it may have survived the war and still reside in some public or private collection in Europe. Emperor Hirohito specifically honored 3 Germans with special swords during World War II. One was given to Goering, one to Field Marshal Erwin Rommel for his North African victories, and a third to Captain Bernhard Rogge, the skipper of a very successful German merchant raider. Goering's katana hasn't been seen since the war, and some have suggested that it was lost when Goering's Berlin home was destroyed by Allied bombing. It may also have been among the weapons, art treasures, and clothing evacuated south from Goering's Karrenhall estate at the end of World War II, which ended up looted at Berchtesgaden station at war's end. Rommel's katana has also disappeared, though it has been suggested that it resides in a German bank vault, along with lots of Rommel's personal effects, which is a possibility as the family does indeed have such a vault. Captain Rogge's sword is the only one on public display. Rogge commanded the German auxiliary cruiser Atlantis, which in 1939-40 scored some notable successes against British shipping in the Far East. In particular, Rogge's capture and later scuttling of the British cargo ship SS Automedon near Sumatra in November 1940 really helped the Japanese, because Rogge captured a series of secret documents that outlined exactly the British defences in Malaya and Singapore, the Germans passing these documents on to the Japanese government. Rogge was then rewarded by the Japanese in 1942 with an ornate katana. Rogge later served in the West German Navy, and following his death in 1982, the sword was among his wartime effects, including his Knight's Cross with oak leaves and swords that ended up displayed at the International Maritime Museum in Hamburg. Reichsfuhrer SS Himmler also received a Japanese sword during the war, and it was noted by Hitler's armaments minister Albert Speer to have sparked off some odd behavior by Himmler, who was a noted crank. To quote Speer's memoirs, Himmler's mysticism was beginning to assume far-fetched pseudo-religious forms. Goebbels, with Hitler, took the lead in ridiculing these dreams and obsessions. When, for example, the Japanese presented him with a samurai sword, he had once discovered kinships between Japanese and Teutonic cults, and called upon scientists to help him trace these similarities to a common racial denominator. End quote. The SS also published a book titled Samurai, Knights of the Empire in Honor and Loyalty, Himmler writing a florid foreword. So, somewhere today there may exist Japanese swords that once belonged to Hitler, Goering, Himmler, and Rommel. Better start checking those attics. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.